TECA is an organization that's committed to supporting educators of color, and in doing so, we feel that we'll be able to increase recruitment, retention, and also provide access to leadership opportunities for educators of color.
The idea behind TECA is that when educators are supported, when they're encouraged, when they're elevated in their profession, they would be a better educator for their students. So it's a trickle-down effect that once those teachers of color are supported, that their students will also feel that support as they think about academic achievement in their classrooms on a day-to-day basis, and then ultimately in the long run.
I think it's really important to have educators of color in the classroom because growing up, that was something I did not see very often. I wanted to see somebody who speaks the same language or comes from a similar background in the classroom so that I can know that I can do this thing too. Or I can go to them with my problems and they can understand it instead of just telling me like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think the student-teacher relationship, at least in my school network, looks different than it did when I was a student. I had great teachers, but there was always kind of a barrier there of things that you didn't talk about, and my teachers didn't always consider what would be best for the individual child or what I had going on at home.
I remember sitting down with my school counselor, and they had recommended that I would take AP Chemistry. And my school counselor asked me, why do you want to take AP Chemistry? What are you going to do with that? I started to question how many times a day are these immigrant kids hearing, why do you want to do this? Or how many times a day are these students given actually the opportunity to show that they're great students? And I think that having a teacher of color, someone who has gone through this or maybe heard this, actually can have an impact on the life of students of color. Why? Because you know that these are questions that sometimes come up. And as a teacher of color, you're going to do everything in your power to make sure that that student never hears you saying something like, why would you want to do this? On the contrary, what you want to do is say, yes, you can. You can be a doctor if you want to.
When I started teaching, one of the students at our school could not believe that there is a teacher from Sudan. So she took a picture so she can show her parents that we have a teacher that is from our country too. So it was an amazing experience, and it just, like, I had a flashback like, oh my goodness, this is me, just thinking like, oh my goodness, why aren't there teachers who look like me? Why aren't there teachers who understand where I come from, the struggles that I go through?
How can we teach our kids to become educators if they don't see themselves in in the school systems? And so kids benefit so much from being able to see someone who looks like them. And so we're not just talking about teachers of color and females, but what about those male teachers? And not just in secondary, but primary. I mean, you go from K to 5 without seeing anyone who looks like you. And so you've already developed a perception of who a teacher is, what that teacher should look like.
It shows the students that, hey, all of the teachers don't have to be so one-dimensional from our vantage point, where it's like all teachers are going to look the same, they're going to be the same type, they're going to expect the same thing. We need to switch it up a little. Or more so, sometimes for a little boy sitting in the class, he has no intentions of becoming a teacher. I know I had no intentions, but when you see someone who looks like you or who looks different than the norm, you say, hey, maybe that's an option. Doesn't mean the student is going to become a teacher, but it can be one added to their list. They might not even think about it for the next 10 years, but it's always a possibility.
Kids look up to people who look like them as an example of what possibilities are out there for them, what career paths they could take, what options they're going to have as an adult.
I know that despite where you come from or what obstacles you face, that you can overcome that. And I know that because I went through the same thing you did. And I can tell them my stories and we can connect, and they can believe in themselves based on what I've been able to overcome in my life as well.
We need teachers, we need leadership that understands the communities that we're trying to change, that we're trying to make an impact on.
If you really want educators to have an impact on scholars, I feel like you need to build a relationship by sharing about your own race, culture, and background, including difficulties, so that they can see an opportunity to really connect and be inspired by your own teaching, mentorship, and actions.
I think we're doing great work. I think that there's more work to be done, but I think that we have the right people in place who are committed to the change that we want to see. And I see TECA has been a value add to the state as a whole. And this is the time to move to action, and we're committed to doing that.